Hello everyone, welcome to the What If Anime YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into an exciting new story that will take your imagination to the next level. Let's get started. What if Naruto decided to teach himself and mastered Fuinjutsu quickly? Start the fanfic. Walking home through Konohagakure no Sato, Naruto Uzumaki understood one thing: he was utterly alone. Despite being surrounded with people as he walked the streets, the people immediately gave him a wide berth. He heard the whispers, demon, monster, brat. He heard the parents telling the children to stay away. He only had one question: why? Whenever he had spent time with his Gigi, Hiruzen Sarutobi the third Hokage, he asked why the villagers hated him. But he was always met with the same response: people hate what they don't understand. Originally he thought it was because of his sun-kissed golden blonde hair and his cerulean blue eyes. But he saw others with strange appearances, like the girl with pink hair and emerald green eyes, or that adult with silver hair. When he finally arrived at his apartment, he looked sadly at the door covered in graffiti and words like, "Die demon. Die." He unlocked the door and he walked into his empty apartment. Locking the door behind him, he walked to the kitchen, opened up a cupboard and pulled out a cup of ramen. After finishing the cup, he took a shower and cried himself to sleep. Next day, Naruto didn't know what he wanted to do that day, so he decided to take a walk throughout the village. He had been walking for about an hour and noticed something that would change him. He was about to walk into a main street when he noticed the Sandaime passing by. He hadn't been noticed by the old man, but he kept watching. He saw that the Hokage got exactly what Naruto wanted: to be looked upon not with fear and disgust, but with joy and admiration. In this moment, Naruto came to a realization that maybe, just maybe, if he became Hokage, he could get the same type of respect and admiration as his Gigi. He called out, "Hey Gigi." Immediately all adults turned to him with a look of disbelief and horror. But the Hokage turned around to look at Naruto with a smile. "How are you doing, my boy?" "I'm doing just fine. May I ask you a question?" "Well, of course. How can I become Hokage?" Hiruzen widened his eyes just a little, then began to chuckle. "How about we talk about this in my office?" Skip to office. Sitting at his desk behind a mountain of paperwork, Hiruzen was smoking his pipe. Looking down at Naruto sitting on a chair. "I became Hokage because I was the strongest ninja in the entire village. So all I have to do is be the strongest ninja in the village." "Partly, but it's more than that. What do you think a Hokage is?" "The leader of Konoha." "Yes, but there's more. Maybe we should start with what you think a shinobi is." Naruto smiled. "Well, they are cool people who can use jutsus to fight." Hiruzen laughed slightly. "Yes, but they are also people who endure. People who defend those who can't defend themselves." Naruto looked down pensively. "So the Hokage is the one who endures the most. The one who protects the entire village so that everyone could feel safe." Hiruzen looks down at the young boy, astonished at the understanding of the 5-year-old. "Precisely. Then how can I become a ninja?" "Well, I would have to sign you up for the academy, but the minimum age is 6. Naruto looked down at the floor with a sigh. He didn't know what he would do for the next year until he could join the academy. Seeing Naruto's mood drop considerably, Hiruzen tells him, "Just because you can't join the academy for a year does not mean you can't prepare." "What do you mean, Gigi?" "Well, you could train and study at the library." Naruto frowns and begins to fidget. Noticing this, Hiruzen asks, "What's wrong, Naruto?" "Well, the last time I went to the library I was kicked out for no reason." Hiruzen was holding his hands over his mouth with shade over his eyes and a grim look. After a minute of thinking, Hiruzen begins to write a note. Once done, he signs and stamps it. Rolling it up, he hands it to Naruto. "Take this. The next time you go to the library, tell them that it is a government-owned building and they cannot kick out the citizens of Konoha." Seeing that Naruto has a nervous look, he says, "If the librarian still won't let you in, just show them this letter. They'll have to let you in then." Naruto looks down at the letter in his hand, then back up to his grandfatherly figure, and with joyous tears in his eyes jumps and hugs the old man. "Thank you. Thank you so much, Gigi." Hiruzen hugs back the little boy and smiles. "Of course, Naruto. If you have any more trouble, you can always come talk to me. I'm going to go to the library now to get some books on ninja. Have fun." The boy closes the door behind him and runs off to the library. Hiruzen stares at the door and thinks, that boy has so much potential and a natural will of fire. "I just hope the village doesn't blow it out." 10 minutes later with Naruto. Standing in front of the library, Naruto is extremely nervous. But regardless, he walks through the door. But right as he is about to pass the librarian's desk, she calls out, "What are you doing here? I thought I said you weren't allowed in here." Naruto looks up to the woman sweating profusely. "Well, the Hokage told me that this was a government-owned building, and that you are not allowed to reject Konoha's citizens." Naruto tried to stare at the librarian with the most stern look he could manage, but it only looked like he was pouting. Looking down at the young blonde, the librarian sighs, rolls her eyes, and says, "Fine, read what you want. But don't talk too loud and don't mess anything up. If you want to take any books home, you have to make an account." "Can I make the account now?" "Sure. Skip 10 minutes of questions and stuff." The librarian hands Naruto a library card and says, "Here's your card. Whenever you want to check out a book, pass it by me first." With a bright smile, Naruto thanks the woman and looks around trying to find a shinobi section. Once he finds it, he looks through the shelves trying to find an appropriate book. Finally, he finds a book titled Becoming a Shinobi for Beginners. He takes the book off the shelf, finds a desk and sits down and begins to read. Shinobi use the tools they have access to complete the missions assigned to them by their cage. The largest and most important tool to a shinobi is their chakra. Chakra is a combination of physical and spiritual energies used to create ninjutsus and genjutsus, but also to augment taijutsu. So the first thing any shinobi hopeful should do is unlock their chakra. However, chakra is not an end-all be-all. It is still important to strengthen your body to make physical attacks more effective. Naruto is immediately interested in the book and continues to read for the rest of the day. Few hours later, Naruto had spent the last few hours reading. He had found 2 more books that he had found helpful titled Chakra Basics and Workouts for Shinobi Trainees. Because the library was about to close, he collected his things and brought 3 books to the front desk to check out the 3 books. Walking up to the desk, he sees a different librarian. He tells her, "Good afternoon, I would like to check out these 3 books." Looking down, the lady smiles and asks, "May I please see your library card?" Taking out the card, the lady scans it and checks out the 3 books. On his way home, Naruto was happy that the lady wasn't mean to him. When he reached his home, he didn't mind how empty it was. He was just happy that he had something to look forward to. It had been a week since Naruto had gone to the library and he had thoroughly enjoyed reading and preparing to become a ninja. The quietness of the library was a relaxing break from the busy and loud village. He had attempted to unlock his chakra in the past few days, but he was still working on it. However, a major problem he had run into was food. In the workout book, it stated that a balanced diet was crucial to growth and development of the body. But every time he went to buy groceries, every supermarket or grocery store either kicked him out before he bought anything or attempted to extremely overcharge him. Naruto was pissed walking through the streets. He had the money he needed, it's just no one would give him a fair price. However, he had remembered that Gigi would help him if he needed it. He immediately dashed off towards the Hokage's office. 10 minutes later, Naruto was panting heavily in front of the Hokage building. Catching his breath, he pushed open the doors and walked up to the front desk. "Hello, may I go see the Hokage, or is he busy?" The desk lady looked up and rolled her eyes. "Of course he's busy, brat. He would never have time for you." Naruto looked down, trying to fight off the tears appearing in his eyes when he heard a voice off to the right. "Of course I would have time for Naruto," hears and shouts. "Anything to get me away from that wretched paperwork." Smiling down at Naruto, he says, "Let's take a walk." Smiling brilliantly, he walked up to the old man and said, "Let's go." Right before they walk out the door, the Hokage turns to his assistant and glares, sending shivers down her spine. She thought, "I definitely just lost my job." Once outside, the old man asks, "What's wrong, Naruto? Why did you come to see me?" Naruto looks down and mumbles, "I need help buying food." Looking at Naruto, Hiruzen is completely confused. "You're going to have to speak up, my boy. I read in a book that if you want to grow, you need to eat healthy food, but every time I try to go buy some, people kick me out or raise the price. I came to you because maybe you have a way to fix it." Despite Hiruzen's surprised face, inside he was boiling mad. Yet simultaneously the gears were turning in his head to find a solution. "I think I know what you can do. Have you unlocked your chakra?" "I'm still trying, but I think I'm close." "Then I can't teach you Henge just yet. For now I will go with you to buy groceries, but you have to come back so I can teach you the jutsu." Naruto began jumping up and down with stars in his eyes. "Really, Gigi, really?" "Sure, but for now let's go to a market. I'll buy you everything you need." Naruto had turned and hugged the old man. "Thank you so much." Coincidentally, they had stopped just in front of a store. As a test, Hiruzen let Naruto walk in first. Once Naruto had walked through the door, a clerk had shouted, "What are you doing in here? I told you, you weren't allowed in. Why wouldn't this Konoha citizen be allowed to shop in your fine establishment?" Hiruzen had asked with a menacing smile. Looking up, the clerk was sweating bullets. Hokage-sama, oh of course he's allowed in here. I thought so. 2 hours later, inside Naruto's apartment, Naruto and Hiruzen were filling the refrigerator with all the groceries bought earlier. Besides all the food, there was a cookbook on the table. Closing the fridge door, Naruto turns around to face the old man. "Thank you so much, Gigi." "You're welcome, Naruto. I want you to grow up big and strong. That can't happen if you don't know how to make your own food. I'll learn how." Hiruzen begins to leave, opening the front door. "I know you will, but I have to go back to the office now. Bye, Gigi." Hiruzen closes the door behind him, leaving the young blonde alone. Immediately Naruto sat down to learn to cook. X 1 year time skip X. It was 6 in the morning and Naruto had woken up excited because today was the first day of the academy. He had grown to 3 foot 5 inches and he had lost a lot of his baby fat from the workouts he had done. He jumped out of bed and started his workout. He started with a stretch, then continued with 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups. After he took a shower and made a breakfast of toast, eggs, and bacon. By 7:30 he was on his way to the academy. When he finally arrived, he was excited to meet his classmates. He walked through the doors, and after finding his room he saw there were 3 people already there. First was a black-haired, onyx-eyed Uchiha near the window. Next was a black-haired kid in a pineapple bun at the back with his head down, sleeping. Finally, sitting next to him was a brown-haired chubby boy munching on some chips. He decided to sit right in the middle of the classroom, far back enough to not attract too much attention but close enough to the board to make sure he could learn. He pulled out a book on Fuinjutsu. He found it easy to understand and was smiling back on how he found it. Flashback. Naruto had reading a book on Konoha history when he saw something. Konoha had an alliance with Whirlpool Village. While that alone didn't catch his attention, the fact that it was made of mostly the Uzumaki clan did. Surprised he even had a clan, he stood up to try to find a book on them. He searched aisle by aisle for nearly 5 minutes before he found a book on the Uzumaki clan. He took it off the shelf and quickly flipped it open. The Uzumaki clan was native to the village hidden in the whirlpools. They could be identified by their fiery red hair. They showed extreme skill in both Kenjutsu and Fuinjutsu. Uzumakis were known for their vitality and longevity. While they did not have a Kekkei Genkei, they did tend to have extremely large chakra pools. Some chunins having as much chakra as a cage. Excited, he was able to finish the entire book before he had to leave. He was saddened by their destruction but chose to honor his ancestors by taking up Fuinjutsu, finding a book for beginners and checking it out. Flashback end. Eventually more and more students walked into the classroom. At 8:15 a lightly tanned man with a scar over his nose walked behind him, a pale man with a bandana over his light blue hair. "Good morning, class. My name is Yumino Iruka and I will be your teacher for the next 6 years. This is my assistant Mizuki. I am going to call attendance." As he did, he only paid attention to the names of the kids from clans. Aburame Shino, a black-haired kid with pitch-black sunglasses and a gray jacket that went over his mouth. Akamichi Choji, he was the chubby kid from earlier. Hyuga Hinata, the girl with pale eyes, dark blue hair, she wore a purple jacket with burgundy pants. Inuzuka Kiba, he had brown hair and red marks on his cheeks. Nara Shikamaru, the sleeping kid with black hair. Uchiha Sasuke, the black-haired brooder looking out the window. Uzumaki Naruto, here, Yamanaka Ino, a bleach blonde-haired girl with pale blue eyes. Finishing attendance, Iruka put the clipboard down and began his speech. "You all are here to become ninja. This means that you will train to become genin. Here you will learn normal school studies, but you will also learn the basics of being a ninja. This includes ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu. Most of you have not unlocked your chakra yet, however some of you have. Would anyone like to come up for a demonstration? 3 people walk up to the front of the class: Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru. As he was walking down the steps he could hear the kids whispering about him. Once he got there, Iruka asked, "What can you do?" First Shikamaru went, "Troublesome, I know the Kajimane Jutsu. When he uses it, his shadow begins to thin and connect to Iruka's. I can use it to control people's movements." He demonstrates by having Iruka follow his movements while he yawned. "Thank you, Shikamaru. Now can you end it?" When he ended it, Naruto went, "Well, I can use the henge and the kawarimi." He demonstrated this by transforming into a perfect copy of the teacher next to him. That's good. That is one of the jutsu you will need to pass the genin exams. Finally Sasuke stepped forward and said, "I can use Kaden Gokaku no Jutsu," sending a basketball-sized fireball in front of him. Iruka clapped for them. "Thank you all for your demonstration. Please go back to your seats." They went to sit down. Naruto smiled, excited for his new year. A few months had passed and it was winter now. The excitement of being in the Shinobi Academy had begun to fade. All the students avoided him like the plague, following in the footsteps of their parents. He was surrounded by people yet all alone. He also noticed small things from his teachers. They would refuse to answer his questions, and during physical development he could tell they were teaching him the wrong academy-style stances. He felt lucky that he had found a taijutsu book or he'd be stumbling over his feet. He hadn't found a style that he felt comfortable with, so he learned basic punches, kicks and blocks so he could use them. Sweaty and tired from the workout he had done after the academy, he was on his way home through a forest when he heard a commotion. "Pale-eyed freak, you think you're better than us?" Worried, he ran towards the noise. When he got there he saw 5 older boys beating up on a girl. Enraged he called out, "Hey idiots, pick on someone your own size." All the boys turned to him confused. When they saw the small boy they broke out in uncontrollable laughter. "Oh yeah, what are you going to do about it? I'll beat you to a pulp. You sure about that, runt? We are all in our last year in the academy." "Doesn't matter." With this Naruto charged at the first guy. About to be punched he flipped over him and kicked the boy in the back of the head, causing the boy to fall forward. When Naruto landed, another boy was about to punch his head while another was aiming for his legs. Right before they hit he cowered him with a log. When they hit the log they cursed, "Damn it, the red-nosed jutsu." They were all looking for Naruto when one was suddenly axe-kicked from above, getting knocked out. The boys all turned and saw their friend lying on the floor and were enraged. "We'll get you for that, brat." Immediately they all rushed him. While Naruto trained and was skilled, he couldn't fight off 4 boys all on his own and he was tired from his afternoon workout. After 10 minutes of getting beat up the boys were eventually satisfied and walked away. Naruto stood up and walked over to the girl. Looking down at her, she was still curled up in a ball. He spoke softly, "Hey, it's okay now. They're gone." The girl looked up to her savior nervously. "Why you didn't have to help?" "Of course I did. I can't let some boys beat up a pretty girl like you," Naruto said with a bright smile. The girl blushed crimson. "I'm Uzumaki Naruto. You're in my class, right? What's your name?" The girl looked up. "Why yes. My name is Hyuga Hinata." "Well, let's be friends." Naruto held out his hand with a hopeful smile. As she was about to grab his hand a shout was heard, "Hinata-sama, there you are." A man was running towards them. He had brown hair and the same pale eyes, wearing traditional Hyuga attire. Seeing who she was with, he quickly picked her up. "Let's go, Hinata-sama. Don't associate yourself with this filth," walking away with her in his arms. Seeing them disappear into the trees, Naruto put his hands in his pockets and went home. He made rice and chicken for dinner and while eating continued to read his book on Fuinjutsu. He needed something light to relax and heal from the beating. He knew it was important for Fuinjutsu and was the only reason he was still on level 1. After an hour of practice he put his handwriting supplies away, took a shower and went to bed. Next day, on his way to school, Naruto was in deep thought. His fight with the boys made him understand something important. While the way he fought now was enough, in the future he knew it would not be enough. He knew that he needed a fighting style badly. The basics that he knew did damage his opponents, but his limited fighting skills did not have a counter to some very important things. He decided to go to the library to find a book on basic fighting styles that could be used as a foundation for a more advanced style later on. When he arrived at his classroom he saw Hinata, so he decided to sit next to her. "Is someone sitting here?" Hinata looked at Naruto and nervously smiled, and no. Sitting down, Naruto said, "You know, I never really got my answer." Hinata nervously pushed the tips of her index finger together. "IW would L lover T to be your F friend." With a foxy grin he said, "Great. Maybe we can spar or study sometime." S sounds L like fun. Hinata smiled back. After about 10 minutes Iruka and Mizuki came in. "Good morning class." Most students continued to talk, so Iruka used his signature, a demonically big head. "Quiet down." There was immediate silence. Iruka's head shrunk back down to normal size. "Good morning class. Today we are going to be working on chakra. Please separate into people who have unlocked their chakra and people who haven't." Two groups began to form on opposite sides of the room. On one side were civilians who needed to unlock their chakra, and on the other were the clan heirs and Naruto. Iruka spoke up again. "The students who need to unlock their chakra will follow Mizuki, while students who already have will follow me." With this everyone walked outside. Once Iruka's group was far enough away he took out a scroll and said, "This is a scroll that can measure the amount of chakra someone has. We'll be using it to test you to see how much you are going to practice this chakra control exercise." I figure if paper to find out chakra nature exists, this could too. The Chunin began unfurling the scroll. "The more of this scroll that glows, the more chakra you have." After unfurling it for about 1 foot there was a line on the paper. "All of you will pass this line. The farther you pass it by, the more chakra control you are going to need. If the entire scroll lights up, then you have at least genin level reserves. So please form a line so we can begin testing." It only took a few seconds to line up before the teacher began to test. First was Shikamaru. He sat down and channeled chakra into the scroll, and starting at the end it began to glow and the light began to climb up the scroll until it stopped about 3 inches past the line. Next was Choji, who made it just over 2 inches, followed by Shino, who got the same. Ino and Hinata made it just over the line. Kiba made it just over an inch. However, the last two people surprised everyone. When Sasuke sat down to measure his chakra, the bar filled 9 inches. Getting praise from his classmates and teacher. But when Naruto finally channeled chakra into the scroll, it filled up quickly and shone brilliantly, leaving his classmates surprised and Iruka sputtering incomprehensible nonsense. Naruto had a nervous smile. "Guess I have a lot of chakra, huh?" Yeah, you are going to have to learn a lot more chakra control though." Naruto scratched the back of his head with a confident smile. "Fine by me." Standing back, Iruka began his lesson. "Today you all will be practicing the leaf sticking exercise." End of school day. Following Iruka. Iruka had just dismissed his students, and after seeing them all leave he gets his things and runs off to the Hokage's office. When he arrived he asked the desk lady if he could meet the Hokage, in which she let him. When he knocked on the door he heard a "Come in." Opening the door he greeted, "Good afternoon Hokage-sama." "Good afternoon to you too. Why are you here?" "Well, we were practicing chakra today when one of my students surprised me." "Oh, really? Which one?" "Uzumaki Naruto. When we were testing for chakra amount he was able to fill our academy scroll near immediately. As far as I know only genins or higher can do that." "Do you think this is because of his tenant?" "I don't know, I didn't see any red chakra." "Do you think we should test him further? Maybe so we can see how much chakra he actually has." He was struggling to do the leaf exercise today. Every time he tried sticking the leaf to his forehead it would be blown off and incinerated, showing he used way too much chakra. "Okay, test his levels again. His levels will only keep growing, so you might have to teach him a higher level of chakra control." "Thank you Hokage-sama." With that he left the office. Following Naruto. Naruto was in the library looking through a book on taijutsu styles. Knowing that his teachers were teaching him the wrong katas, he had to find a taijutsu style. Earlier in the book it said that styles had a certain focus like strength, speed, countering, or flexibility. So he decided to focus on speed and unpredictability. He stopped at a page and grinned. He found a style called Raken. For offense it had fast, precise hits. But for defense it had dodges and parries. After that he found the complete book, and instead of just checking it he bought it because he would need it for much longer than the 2-week limit. He immediately ran off to a training ground to learn his new taijutsu style. Winter was ending with 3 months left before the Genin exams and Naruto was nervous. 5 years of chakra control exercises and he still couldn't make a damn clone. He learned leaf sticking, tree climbing, and water walking. He even tried combining exercises. He could stick leaves to different parts of his body while water walking and he still couldn't control the minimal amount of chakra necessary to make clones. He read that elemental clones cost more chakra and figured it would be easier for him to do without overloading the clone, but when he went to the library to find a scroll, it was in the ninjas section he wasn't allowed in yet. Naruto always thought he would have time to learn the clone, but with time running out he only knew one more solution. Opening the door to the Hokage building, he was unsure if the Hokage would even see him. Naruto hadn't visited in a while. "Good morning, may I see the Hokage today?" Staring at the boy, the secretary responded, "Okay, go upstairs." "He isn't in a meeting." Scratching the back of his head with a grin, he thanks the woman and runs up the stairs excited. Reaching the door, he knocked and entered when he heard, "Come in." "Hey Gigi." "Ah Naruto, I haven't seen you in a while. How's the academy?" "I'm second in my class," he says with a slight puff of his chest. With a slight smirk, Hiruzen responds, "Oh, not first. Sasuke Uchiha is ahead of me, but only because he does better in Shuriken Jutsu and Ninjutsu. But that's why I'm here." "What's wrong, Naruto?" Slight concern in his voice. "May you please help me with my clone jutsu?" The old man slowly adopted a knowing smile. Being a Jinchuriki and an Uzumaki is making it impossible for him. "Why do you need my help?" Naruto begins to fidget nervously. "Well, first I tried making my chakra control better, but I kept using too much chakra. Then I tried finding a more costly clone jutsu, but I needed to be a ninja to have access to that section. The graduation exam is coming up, so I figured that either you would know how I could use the clone or be able to find me a jutsu I could use." "Ah, Kushina had the same problem." Hiruzen smiles as he begins to write down on a scroll. "I am writing down all the information on shadow clones. However, this is technically a forbidden jutsu, so you have read all of it." There was a twinkle in Naruto's eyes as he looked back and forth between the scroll and the old man. Naruto hugged the Hokage, crying, "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gigi." Holding the blonde in a warm embrace, Hiruzen responds, "Anytime my boy, anytime. I gotta go, Gigi. I have to practice so I can have this jutsu down by graduation." Naruto excitedly runs out of the building on a beeline to the nearest training ground. Reaching training ground 31, Naruto sits down on the ground to read the scroll. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, V rank. Seals. Clone seal. Form a cross with index and middle finger of both hands. Description. User splits chakra evenly to form solid clones of pure chakra that can be used to complete tasks. This makes the chakra cost extremely heavy. Each individual clone has its own mind and chakra system, allowing clones to use jutsu and work on their own. Once a clone has completed its task, it may dispel itself or the user may dispel the clone. One clone has been dispelled for any reason, including combat. All memories, experiences, and remaining chakra of the clone are transferred back into the user. Extremely useful for intelligence gathering and reconnaissance. Drawbacks. Too many memories from clones will cause headaches and can damage the user's brain. If many clones are used, once dispelled, the user will amass the fatigue of all the clones. This jutsu, it's perfect. I could have a clone go to the library while I'm in school. I could learn so much faster. Naruto jumped off the ground and put himself in a steady position. Forming the clone seal with his hands, he closed his eyes and focused on his chakra. Okay, release chakra through my hands and mold it into a person. A perfect copy of me. Give the clone half my chakra and Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto slowly opened his right eye, hoping for the best, but then he let out a sigh. No clones were made. He tried splitting his chakra evenly, but the clone didn't form, though most of his chakra was returning from the failed attempt. Trying again, he tried to pour more than half his chakra, figuring he didn't use enough chakra, but again no clones had formed. Am I using too much? The scroll said half my chakra, but it's not forming. I mean, I have so much chakra I'm physically incapable of forming a normal clone. Maybe the cost for me isn't half. Forming the seal one more time, Naruto focused about a quarter of his chakra into the clone. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. In front of him there was himself with the identical clothes grinning. "Oh, my God, I did it!" The clone happily responds, "You did it." They hug each other jumping and chanting, "We did it! We did it!" After calming down, Naruto turns to the clone. "Okay, the scroll said that I get your memories after you dispel, so go over to those trees and do something memorable while I test how many clones I can make." Naruto only made one clone, so this time he made two. Seeing two perfect clones, he made three more. He was about to make four, but then he received his first clone's memory. He held his stomach thinking, that kinda hurt. I got every memory from me creating him to him stabbing himself in the stomach. Time skip. Naruto was lying down on the ground, hungry and exhausted. It was lunchtime and he had been trying to find his limit for the past hour. I have to have made at least a few hundred clones. How much chakra do I have? Slowly pushing himself off the ground, Naruto got up to go eat. He wanted to test the limit of what his clones could do but knew he needed sustenance. With a smile he began to walk towards Ichiraku Ramen. He hadn't been there in a while, and even though he ate a balanced diet, he figured that today might be a great day to grace himself with the godliness that was ramen. Entering the stand, the cook at the front turned to see Naruto and smiled. "Hi Naruto. How are you today?" "Hi Ayame. Just did some training and couldn't wait for some of your ramen." "Of course. Ours is the best. What will you be having today?" "2 bowls of miso ramen and 2 bowls of pork." "Thank you." Ayame turned and shouted to the kitchen, "To send 2 bowls of miso and 2 of pork for our favorite customer." They heard a shout in response, coming right up. "Great to see you, Naruto." "Thanks old man." After slurping down his ramen and paying, he gets up to leave. "Thanks for the ramen." Ayame waves, "Come back soon." Running back to the training fields, Naruto was thinking, the scroll said that clones transfer memory. But does that include chakra and muscle memory? I'm going to have to test that. Making a clone, Naruto gave it instructions, "Go get my sealing stuff from the apartment." With a shout of, "Hi!" the clone ran off. When Naruto got to the training ground, he created 10 clones. "All right, to check for chakra memory, I want you all to do some chakra control. Last time I could water walk while sticking 5 leaves to myself. I want you all to try and get to 6 or 7. After the clones ran off towards the lake, the first clone he made arrived with his sealing supplies. Creating 9 more clones, Naruto gave out more orders. "To check for muscle memory, I want you all to draw some seals. I'm trying to learn the restriction seal for my training, so I want you all to practice drawing it." Watching the clones walk away, Naruto dropped to the floor to begin a workout. There was one major thought on his mind: if this works, then I can learn so much faster. Naruto got ready for school laboriously yet excitedly. Today is the Genin exam and he could not wait to pass. In the past 3 months, Naruto's training has improved. The shadow clones combined with the restriction seal allowed him to learn faster than before. While the restriction seal made his exercises much more difficult, especially since he just raised the level to 4, the shadow clones improved his seal speed and chakra control. On his way to school, Naruto was excited for the future. He still only knew the henge, kawarimi, and kage bunshin, so he was hoping that whatever Jonin sensei he got would teach him some elemental jutsu. But when he sat down in the classroom, he began to prepare for the exam. When Iruka and Mizuki walked in, he immediately began to focus. This exam will be in 5 parts. First will be a written exam, so will you all please get to your seats, Iruka began. As the students got to their seats, Mizuki began distributing papers. You will have 1 hour to complete 10 questions on the paper. Once everyone was ready, one shout rang throughout the classroom, "Begin." 1 hour later, pencils down. As Naruto wiped the sweat off his forehead, he grinned, proud of how well he did on the exam. "We are going outside for the next test." As everyone left, Mizuki stayed behind and collected the tests. Once all the students were lined up outside, Iruka gave instructions. "I'm going to call you out one by one and you will throw 10 kunai and 10 shuriken." After marking down everyone's scores, Iruka shouts, "Next is taijutsu. You are all going to spar with Mizuki. If you can stay inside the ring for 3 minutes, you get a full score." After hearing this, Naruto sat down under a tree to relax and wait for his turn. He was proud of his score but a little saddened by missing the last 2 points. Though as he watched his classmates spar, he grew more and more confident in his capabilities. Uzumaki Naruto, step into the circle. Settling into the opening Raken stance, he took a breath and stared into his sensei's eyes. Hajime. Mizuki kicked off to punch Naruto in the gut. Dodging to the right, Naruto ran back to deliver a punch from the side. However, Mizuki ducks out of the way and tries to sweep Naruto's legs, but he flips over it and tries to deliver an axe kick. Mizuki catches the leg and throws Naruto across the ring. Naruto rolls to lessen the impact and glares at Mizuki. He's fighting much harder than before. I might as well release the restriction seal. Holding a one-handed ram seal, he thinks, Kai. While none of the other students caught it, both the teachers did and were very confused. What is Naruto doing? No one used a genjutsu. Naruto dashes close to Mizuki and tries to hit his face, but Mizuki blocks with his left arm and tries to hit back with his right, but Naruto jumps high to dropkick Mizuki. However, when Mizuki goes to block, Naruto springboards off him, temporarily unbalancing Mizuki. With a burst of speed, Naruto sprints to hit Mizuki square in his gut, knocking him out of the ring. The silence was deafening as everyone stared between the unconscious teacher and the student, scratching the back of his head with a nervous grin. Oops. It took a second before Iruka took a breath and focused. Well done, Naruto, you may step out of the circle. As Naruto sat down and reapplied his seal, Iruka tested the remaining students himself while he let Mizuki recover. After the Iruka wrote down the scores of the last student, he shouted for everyone's attention, everyone is dismissed for lunch. Be back inside the classroom by 12:30 p.m. Time skip. After everyone came back from lunch, Iruka made an announcement. We're going to do the last 2 tests, and if you pass them both, you become genin. We'll call you to a separate room and test your genjutsu and your Academy 3 jutsu. Now first up, Aburame Shino. As the numbers dwindled, Naruto began to focus. The ninjutsu part I'm confident in. I can even do them with only one sign. It's the genjutsu part I'm worried about. I always struggle to recognize that I'm in one. Iruka calls out, Naruto Uzumaki. As Naruto walks over to the other room, he continues his train of thought. To release a genjutsu, disrupt your chakra by either stopping its flow for a split second or releasing it in a small burst. A third but risky method is to physically injure myself. He stood confidently in front of his 2 teachers, but inside he was slightly nervous due to genjutsu being his worst subject. We will be testing you on how quickly you can recognize and escape from the genjutsu. Mizuki will put you in at a random point in time within the next few minutes. If you attempt to escape before he uses a genjutsu, points will be deducted. Ready? Definitely. As Naruto stood in the center of the classroom, nothing changed. He looked all around him and yet nothing looked different. Even his teachers looked the same. He began to look around for the little details that might indicate he was in a genjutsu. It was a few minutes until, finally, he sees it. The color of the wood was different and Iruka's hair was slightly darker and his scar was slightly bigger. Holding the ram sign, Naruto closed his eyes to focus on his chakra. Once he had prepared adequately, he stopped the flow of chakra for a moment. Kai. Opening his eyes to smiling teachers, he grinned. Iruka congratulated him. Good job, Naruto. Now do the Academy 3. Naruto nervously asked, am I allowed to do another type of clone? Iruka, I guess it's okay as long as it's functioning. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. As the 2 teachers stared bug-eyed at the clones on both sides of Naruto, each clone did a different hand sign and a different jutsu with them. Henge. The clone on the left transformed into a perfect clone of the Sandaime Hokage. Kawarimi. There was now a lob where the clone on the right now stood. And in between was a grinning Naruto with his chest puffed out in pride. Once the 2 teachers broke out of their stupor, they showed similar emotions, but their thoughts were extremely different. Mizuki was furious. The way this is going, my plans are going to be ruined. However, Iruka grabs a black cloth headband and proudly states, congratulations Naruto, you are now a genin. As his hand is over, he continues, come back in a week for team assignments. The grades will be posted on the board that day too. The elated grin that was plastered on Naruto's face as he received his headband was nearly contagious. And as he bounced out of the building, he paid no mind to harsh whispers or the indignant glares. He was just happy he got his headband. And the extreme amount of celebratory ramen tasted better than ever before. But as he walked home, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Hey Naruto, can I talk to you? Turning around, he saw Mizuka behind him. Sure, what do you need? Let's talk in private. Sure. After walking into the forest for a little, Mizuki began, "You did amazing during the exams and I wanted to congratulate you for that." With a grin he responded, "Thanks Mizuki-sensei. However, Sasuke will most likely beat you out for Rookie of the Year and I wanted to know if you wanted a chance to change that." There was a brief silence as Naruto thought about it but replied, "No thanks, status as Rookie of the Year isn't that important to me." There was a slight twitch on Mizuki's face, however, Naruto caught it. Mizuki continued, "Well, if you succeeded in the extra test you would also receive 2 kunai and shuriken sets." Naruto squinted his eyes in suspicion, "This sounds fake. But let's see, what exactly is the test?" Few hours later, "Hey Gigi." The old man looked up from his paperwork and smiled, "I see you've passed." The smile spread to Naruto's face, "Of course, you helped me with my main problem. Except I now have another one." Hiruzen adopted a face of concern, "Is everything alright?" Getting a little more serious, Naruto began, "Well, Mizuki said that there was a bonus exam to guarantee my spot as Rookie of the Year." The Hokage was now confused, "There is no bonus exam." "I thought so, but what sealed it for me is that he said that the test was to steal the scroll of seals and bring it to some remote area of the forest. That would be traitorous." "I know. That's why I came to talk to you. I wanted to ask you what I should do." Hiruzen scratched his chin and thought, "What do you think I should do?" "Well, you could arrest him now, but you don't have enough to prove anything. So what I would do is have me take a fake scroll and pretend the heist is actually happening. But have an Anbu follow me out to the meek point and hide. Once Mizuki shows that would be enough." "That sounds like a plan." Inu. A swirl of leaves and a man appeared kneeling before his leader, "Yes, Lord Hokage. Follow Naruto to the rendezvous point with Mizuki. If he shows any signs of traitorous activity, capture him. This will be a B-rank mission for both of you." Excitedly, Naruto began jumping. "Cool, now about that fake scroll." Naruto crossed his arms and smirked, "Oh, I can handle that, I just need to inspect it for a minute." Hiruzen raised an eyebrow, "Oh. Let's see what you can do." Swiveling in his chair he grabbed the scroll behind him and handed it to the fresh genin. Naruto took it and began to look through every detail. He never opened it but made sure he had a perfect image of it in his mind. Once he did, he handed the scroll back. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A clone appeared next to the boy. That clone then proceeded to transform into a perfect copy of the scroll. Naruto picked it up and strapped it to his back. "It should last for a few hours." Hiruzen smiled, "I'll begin sending out search parties in an hour. Be at the meetup spot by then." Naruto and the Anbu both saluted, "Hi." Hour and a half later, Naruto was nervously pacing between 2 trees. He'd put some dirt on his clothes to make it look like he was training. "I thought he would be here already. It's been 30 minutes since the alert went out." He was going to continue pacing but he heard a rustling of bushes behind him and a voice call out, "What the hell are you trying to pull, Naruto?" Iruka had emerged from the bushes extremely angry, but Naruto was only confused. "What are you doing here, Iruka-sensei?" "I should be asking you that." Iruka's anger rose. Playing the fool, Naruto responded, "Well, Mizuki-sensei said that this was a bonus test." All the anger immediately flipped to confusion. "What are you talking about?" Furthering the act, Naruto began to ramble nervously. "Well, Mizuki said that if I learned a jutsu from the scroll that he could make me Rookie of the Year. And I thought, wait, if Mizuki told you to do this then that would mean..." Both ninjas jumped to the side as kunai flew in between them and a voice boomed, "Give me the scroll, Naruto." Both ninjas turned to the new person and Iruka shouted, "Do not give Mizuki that scroll." Mizuki snarled, "He just doesn't want you to get any stronger because he hates you." The explosively angry complexion turned to a maniacal grin, "But do you want to know why everyone hates you?" Naruto thought he had prepared for anything Mizuki might say to convince him. But that one question made him crack. "Why?" "Well, you see," the swift chop to the neck from the hidden Anbu sent Mizuki into unconsciousness. Restraining the traitor, the masked shinobi began to speak, "Thank you both for helping in the capture of this traitor. Naruto, come with me to report mission success in Hokage's office. Iruka, you may go home." Shrugging his shoulders, he dispelled the fake scroll and walked over to the Anbu. "Okay, Shunshin is there." Iruka looked between them extremely confused. "What's going on here?" "Oh, this whole thing was a plan to prove Mizuki was a traitor." Iruka just stood there flabbergasted as his student and an Anbu just Shunshin away. Hokage's office. Standing before their leader Inu spoke, Anbu Inu and Genin Uzumaki Naruto, reporting mission success. Well done. Inu, go drop off the traitor to T. Naruto, you may go home and the mission pay will be in your account by tomorrow. Naruto did not leave. No. The Hokage was slightly worried. Please don't ask. Is there something you need, Naruto? Tell me why people hate me. People hate what they don't understand. Naruto, while calm on the outside, began to get angry. And what is it that they don't understand? Well, you're a little different than everyone else. Naruto began tapping his foot impatiently. What makes me so different? Well, you see. Stop making excuses. Stop avoiding the question, Gigi, and tell me why people hate me so much that people I've never met before try to glare a hole through me. Why? Parents still try to hide their kids from me. Why I had to learn a jutsu just to buy food at normal price. Here is inside. He always did his best to give Naruto some semblance of a normal childhood. He knew most of it didn't work, but he avoided this conversation because he wanted to protect Naruto. Preparing for a lot of angry screams, he spoke, "You're the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune." All that was heard was a whisper. "I figured it out a year ago, old man." Shocked, Hiruzen asked, "How?" "I saw the seal on my stomach. Combine that with the date of my birth and the fact that Biju can't die, and it all fell into place. I'm just angry you didn't trust me enough to tell me. Even after I graduated." Looking down, the Hokage was disappointed in himself. "I just wanted you to have a decent childhood. You and I both know that was never going to happen." I know, he sighed. "Look, I'm tired and I have to prepare for team assignments, so I'm gonna go. I just wanted to hear the truth from you." Naruto walked out, leaving the Hokage sad and with a headache. Lighting his pipe, he thought, that could have gone better. Laying in his bed, Naruto thought about his day. Not even 24 hours into being a genin and he already had a completed B-rank mission in his file. And as forced as it was, his Gigi finally told him about the 50-story-tailed beast in his gut. He knew that his grandfather figure only wanted to protect him. But sometimes it is better to know the truth than to be protected from it. With these thoughts, his eyes closed. But when they opened, he didn't know where he was. He was in what seemed to be a library. He was in a large hallway with many different paths branching off. And lining the walls were bookshelves that were nearly empty except for the occasional book or scroll, yet he could envision the collection eventually growing. But far, far away he heard a low growl and a steady breath. Naruto slowly stalked towards the noise, hoping he wasn't alone in what seemed to be an endless labyrinth. Eventually he found a dark cage. He couldn't see inside, so he inched forward. "So my warden finally comes to greet me." A gigantic red slitted eye appeared in the darkness. Naruto stared at the eye in fear. "And who might you be?" A toothy grin appeared next. "Didn't you tell your leader you knew about me?" Widening his eyes in realization, he points and screams, "You're the Kyuubi." Emerging from the darkness was a red-orange fox 1,000 feet tall and 9 swishing tails behind him. "At least my container is smart." Scratching his chin pensively, Naruto mumbles, "All those books were wrong." Seemingly raising his eyebrow, the fox questions, "What do you mean by that?" Meeting the beast eyes, Naruto explains, "Well, all the books describe you as a mindless, destructive beast, of pure chakra, hatred, and malice. But from this conversation alone I can tell that you're not mindless, so I'm wondering if there are other sides of you that I could learn about. What are you after?" Kyuubi growled menacingly. Naruto held up his hand defensively, "And nothing. It's just I figure if we are going to be sharing a body we should come to some type of compromise." Kyuubi became angry. "Compromise? You just want my power." "Not without asking. I know I would hate someone taking my chakra without asking, so I'm offering a deal." Calming down, the Biju lays on his arms. "Fine. What are you offering? What do you want?" Kyuubi shows a Cheshire grin. "You could open the seal." Naruto laughs lightly. "Nice joke, but you know I can't do that without dying." "Is there anything that might improve your quality of life? Something to do other than sleep might be nice. What's your favorite thing to do?" "Recreational destruction is fun." "Of course it is. I'll see what I can do." Through the bars, the Kyuubi watched Naruto carefully as he focused on his task, still slightly suspicious of the boy's intentions. His previous containers never gave him this opportunity. They only viewed him as a burden. Yet as his surroundings slowly changed to those of a field with tall trees he could sleep under and a town off in the distance he could destroy, he was finally hopeful. Hopeful he had found a friend. Panting, Naruto asked, "How's that?" "Thank you. But where is the cage?" "Look down, I changed it to a collar. I figured if you wanted a bit more mobility a collar would be better. And if I tried to harm you, it would electrocute you." "Fair enough. So what do you want from me? You're really going to help me? I may be a beast of pure destruction, but I do have honor." "What can I do? I want to be the best Hokage ever. To do that I need to be a strong ninja, so are there any abilities or jutsu that you could teach me?" "There aren't any of my techniques I could teach you without you learning to use my chakra first. Though I guess I can teach you some of my past containers, jutsu." Naruto smiled brilliantly. "Thank you. You know I never got your name." "Name?" The Kyuubi eyed Naruto. Naruto scratched the back of his head. "Well, the Aikibi is named Shukaku, so I figured you have a name too. And we can't be friends if I don't even know your name." "Friends? Why would I need friends?" Naruto frowned at that. "Well, everybody needs somebody. And if we're going to be together until we die, we might as well be friends." "Kurama." "What? My name? It's Kurama. But don't tell anybody. I need to respect them to know my name." Beginning to wake up, Naruto starts to fade. "I'll see you soon for those jutsu. At least I know where to find you. Or we can form a mind link. Next time, Kurama. One step at a time." A week later. Despite Konohamaru being almost a little brother to Naruto, the past week of constantly asking Naruto for training annoyed him. I'll do that part later because I figure it's time to get to the juicy stuff." Sitting down in the classroom for the last time in a while, Naruto was simultaneously excited but immensely nervous. He knew that most of the civilian-born ninja hated him, and if even one of them were on his team, teammate or sensei, especially sensei, his genin days would be hell. As Iruka walked through the door, clipboard in hand, his nervousness and excitement grew. "Good morning. Today is the day you truly become genin. You will be placed in squads of 3 genin and a jonin sensei." Naruto zoned out Iruka's speech, just focusing on praying for good team members. Quote, "I will call out your teams one by one. After that you will be dismissed for lunch. Return by 12:30 p.m. to meet your jonin senseis. All right, starting with Team 1. As Naruto listened as teams were called out and his hope slowly grew. With each team only civilians were called out, leaving behind clan heirs. Team 7, Kiba Inuzuka, Sakura Haruno. Kiba paled, scared for his hearing, and Sakura was depressed over being paired with a mutt, and Sasuke Uchiha. While Sakura's mood flipped in an instant over being paired with her true love, Kiba's mood darkened even further. Team 8, Aburame Shino, Hyuga Hinata, and Uzumaki Naruto. While Naruto was indifferent to Shino and completely fine with working with him, it was Hinata he was worried about. While her immeasurable kindness was sometimes helpful, it was a gigantic weakness, and if their jonin sensei didn't fix that, he would. Team 9 is still in rotation, so moving on to Team 10. Akamichi Choji, Nara Shikamaru, and Yamanaka Ino. I'm with the lazy bum and the chubby. I'm screwed. A sob pierced through the room. Oh yeah, didn't both of them do better than you by a lot? Who's really screwed? Naruto shouted, finally tired of the fangirl attitude. Embarrassed, Ino sat down and didn't speak. Smirking at the interaction, Iruka announced, "You are dismissed. Be back by 12:30. Walking over, he asked, "Hey, if we're going to be a team, maybe we should get to know each other a little better. Lunch maybe." While Hinata's head slowly began to glow brighter than Rudolph's nose, she squeaked out, "Okay. That sounds productive. Where are we eating?" Shino spoke monotonously. "Well, I don't think ramen is good for your bugs, so maybe we should go to a cafe somewhere." "That is acceptable." Later, they waited briefly for their sensei when a woman with red eyes and untamed black hair. She wore a red mesh blouse covered by what seemed to be large bandages with a rose thorn pattern. Team 8, with me. Following their sensei, they were eventually led to a patio with a few benches. Sitting down, the woman began her speech. "My name is Yuhi Kurenai and I might be your jonin sensei, but more on that later. Firstly, I wanted to get to know you all, your likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams for the future. I'll even go first. My name is Yuhi Kurenai. My likes are genjutsu, my friends, and dango. My dislikes are rapists, fangirls who give kunoichi a bad name, and perverts. Especially perverts. My hobby is practicing new genjutsu. My goal for the future is to show the world that genjutsu is just as strong as ninjutsu and taijutsu. And that kunoichi can be just as good as men. Who's next? My name is Aburame Shino and my likes are my kikaichu and my family. I dislike people who hate or kill bugs unnecessarily. My hobby is to collect bugs. My goal is to become the best Aburame clan head I can be. Those are reasonable goals. Who's next? My N name is Hyuga Hinata. My likes are CC Cinnamon Bee Buns, my family, and she glanced towards Naruto and blushed. Everyone caught it. My dislikes are KK kidnappers and R rapists. My hobbies are F flower PP pressing, and she glanced at Naruto and her blush deepened. Everyone then showed looks of confusion and concerned Naruto. My G goals for the FF future are to unite my clan, or remove the sea caged bee bird as seal, and one final glance at Naruto and she fainted. Everyone, used to her fainting spells, just continued. While Kurenai was thinking, I really need to instill some confidence in her. Naruto was following a similar thought path. I should have tried to help her out of that a while ago. Once Hinata regained consciousness, Kurenai continued, you're last. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and my likes are training, seals, and ramen. My dislikes are people who mistake the scroll for the kunai, perverts, and bullies. My hobbies are training, trying to invent new seals, gardening, and shogi. My goal for the future is to become the greatest Hokage. Kurenai smiled. He might be able to help me with Hinata. Returning to the task, Kurenai spoke, now that we know each other. This team is meant to be a tracking squad. Seeing Naruto raise his hand, Kurenai motioned for him to speak. I understand why Hinata and Shino are here, but wouldn't Kiba be a better fit for this team because of his sense of smell? Tracking squads tend to be a little weaker in terms of power than other squads. So you are here to bolster our fighting power. Naruto nodded his head in understanding, so Kurenai continued, however, like I said earlier, I might not be your sensei. You see, the graduation exam was only to weed out the hopeless cases. Each sensei has one last test that you must pass to become genin. And individually the pass rate is only 33%. While Shino remained stoic hearing this, and Naruto grinned in confidence, Hinta became very nervous. The test is tomorrow at 8 a.m. on Training Ground 8. If you pass, I will do my best to make your dreams come true. See you tomorrow. She shunshined away. While Shino went to leave with the same stoic look, Hinata slumped to the floor, a nervous mess. Naruto ran over and held her by the shoulders. Hinata, look at me. Look me in the eyes. Once her eyes met his, he continued, you will do just fine. I'll be there. And turning to Shino, wait. Looking between the two, Naruto continued, look, she said that individually we have a 33% chance. Maybe if we work together that will go up. We're a team now. We have to act like one. Hinata felt a wave of confidence, and while Shino didn't show it, he did too. Hinata spoke slightly confidently, okay. Shino walked back and sat down, agreed. But what is our plan? Well, we can't make them too specific since we don't know what the test is. But there are two things we do know. We are going to be tested on how well we can track, as that is our squad's purpose, and that our sensei is most likely extremely proficient in genjutsu. Waiting for their sensei, the three genin were discussing possible battle formations when a poof sounded behind them. Good morning, genin. Your test will be to track your target down through that forest before noon. And your target will be me. I will be your target. You will have passed once you've tracked me down and landed one solid hit on me. Good luck. The sensei that was once there just faded from view. Naruto cursed, genjutsu. Any idea where she went? I wasn't able to plant any of my kikaichu. MIB Byakugan doesn't go that far. Why yet? Hinata said as she tried to scan the forest. Naruto grinned. Okay, I have an idea. What is it? Shino asked. Well, first I would have my shadow clones surround the search perimeter, then we would travel to the center. From there I can send out a chakra pulse to disrupt all genjutsu within the area. But you couldn't have your Byakugan active, Hinata. Why? For you it would be the equivalent of looking directly into a flashbang. I don't want to hurt your eyes. That would be best, Shino commented. After that the clones would begin to circle towards the center while you two try to find her. She'll be confused and surprised at genjutsu failing. If the clones find her, I'll know and we can go there. If not, that means she's running towards the middle where we will be and the clones will be heading. That would help us find her, but how would we hit her? She is a Jonin, Shino states. Scratching his chin, he was trying to form a plan. He knew he could probably outlast her in a fight because of his reserves. But that would definitely take too long. I have an idea, but it's pretty risky. See, I reached level 5 in seals about 2 weeks ago. It allowed me to safely learn the paralysis seal. But the only way to apply it is to draw it on her, which I wouldn't have time to do, or place the seal paper on her. That could stop her long enough to land a hit. I could place it even if she blocks. How many do you have? Only 10. I could make more though. Who holds them? Hinata nervously fiddles with her fingers. It would be illogical for Hinata to have them because Kurenai-sensei would avoid close combat at all costs. Hinata looked a little sad, but Naruto wanted to finish the plan before he cheers her up. I think, Shino, you should carry 7 of them so that your bugs can try to place some. And besides, I can make more if we need. Looking at each other, they nodded and began running to the middle of the forest. Naruto made 51 clones to surround the forest as they ran towards the center. One of them just to dispel and notify Naruto of the complete circle. With Kurenai, it had been 40 minutes since she had hidden in the forest. She had hoped that they would have at least one altercation by then. And 10 minutes earlier, when they had passed her by, she was nervous that they wouldn't pass. At least they were working together, she thought. Suddenly she felt chakra wash through her. That couldn't be one of my genin. That would take too much, Naruto. He couldn't have the chakra and control for this. She was about to set up her genjutsu again, but she sensed someone coming closer. Deciding to move, she was going to move to a different area, but then she sensed another signature. She kept trying to find an area where she could stay hidden until she realized, I'm surrounded and the area is getting smaller. When they passed me, they weren't trying to find me, they were trying to trap me. She grinned. Smart. She sensed dozens of signatures, but most of them were identical and slowly forming a circle around her. However, 3 that were breaking the pattern and moving directly towards her. I can't run because the clones will stop me. I can't hide because Naruto would wipe out any genjutsu I use. Her 3 genin stopped a few meters away where they could see each other. Well done. You made it, so I have to fight. Without speaking, Hinata charged and Naruto began to run around them. Just as Hinata was about to deliver a Juken strike to the heart, Kurenai pivoted out of the way, but she immediately had to jump away from a few kunai. She was about to try to use a genjutsu to escape when she leaned hard to the right to dodge Naruto trying to punch her head. Quickly spinning to face her, he was about to throw a kunai, so to get him away she kicked him in the stomach. But instead of a flying Naruto came a poof of smoke. One of the clones broke formation. The next time she tried to escape, a swarm of bugs surrounded her, so she seamlessly kawarimed out of there. Damn it, she's gone. Hinata, can you see her? Why yes, she's a little bit n north of H here. She's really close to why your clones. Making a clone, Naruto asked, how close? About 3 trees away. The clone poofed away and Naruto shouted, let's go. The other 2 began following him. With Kurenai sitting in a tree hidden from the clones, Kurenai was thinking, I know Naruto doesn't have a sensing ability, so unless he can communicate with his clones, I'll be safe for a while. Though hidden, she smiled, I know that they can track me down, but let's see if they can actually land a hit. She was about to let the little chakra she used regenerate, but then she had to quickly jump off the tree as a clone kicked down on the branch she was sitting on. I can sense them a bit away, so how did the clones know I was there? She slowly became more and more irritated as the clones kept coming, especially because they were becoming harder and harder to dispel. It's almost as if they're learning from each other. Just after she had popped another clone, she had to jump out of the way of a Juken strike. They're here. At the height of her jump, she saw a clone run to her landing area. Rolling in midair, she went to dropkick the clone, but what it did next confused her. It didn't block, it didn't dodge, it just stood there with its arms ready to meet her legs. And just before she hit, the clone opened its palms and caught her by the feet. Or it was supposed to. Once she hit, it dispelled, though she saw a smirk before it did. Out of the corner of her eyes, she saw Hinata charging for another strike. Just before she went to pivot out of the way, she froze. Why can't I move? Stopping just in front of her, Hinata shouted, "Juken, Hake Sanju Sho." Ni Sho, 2 strikes hit Kurenai in the leg. Yan Sho, 2 more strikes to the leg. Hachi Sho, 4 strikes, this time to the arms. Jiroku Sho, 8 strikes to the limbs. Hake Sanju Sho, the final 16 strikes hit her directly in the abdomen, though avoiding all internal organs. Though 32 of her chakra points are shut down, Kurenai was still unable to move. The other 2 genin walked up to the 2 kunoichi and Naruto grinned holding the ram hand sign, Kai. Kurenai was suddenly able to move. Returning to standing position, she reopened her chakra points. Paralysis seal, Naruto explains, you wouldn't have been able to move until I released it. Looking upon her 3 genin, Kurenai was immensely proud. Well done, you tracked me down, immobilized me in just under 3 hours. And through it all you worked together as a team. You are officially Team 8. I have to go report to the Hokage, so I will meet here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Shino only repositioned his glasses, though that was a major sign of excitement. Hinata had a big smile on her face, but Naruto was jumping up and down. Naruto hugs Hinata in his celebration, we did it. But then it turned to concern as Hinata couldn't take the excitement. Naruto laid her down slowly on the grass. Looking up to Shino, he asks, we're going to have to fix that, aren't we? Correct. It could cost us the mission, or our lives. Hey, if you need to leave I can stay until she wakes up. I don't have anywhere I need to be. Thank you. I have to tend to some of the hives today. Running off, Naruto pulled out his sealing equipment to wait for Hinata to wake up. Minus 30 minutes later, Naruto was practicing a barrier seal when he heard a murmur, where is he everybody? Putting his things away he responded, everyone left about 30 minutes ago, but I offered to wait for you to wake up. Oh, did we Pete pass? Naruto grinned confidently, of course we did, and we couldn't have done it without you. Really? Of course, you tracked her down for us. You are an amazing kunoichi. Hinata blushed, do why you are really TT think as so. The grin turned to a warm smile, yes. And never let anyone tell you otherwise. Her smile turned to a frown, but my C clan says. He cut her off, your clan is kinda dumb. No offense. Her eyes widened but then her frown deepened, hey. That's my F family you're talking about. Naruto waved his hands in his defense, I know, it's just they all use the same fighting style. No differences at all, and that makes the Hyuga clan very predictable. That makes me worry for you. Hinata looks at Naruto confused, why? Because the second anyone knows you're a Hyuga they are going to know exactly what you can do and predictability can kill you. Oh, I gotta go but think about this. The next time one of you family members says you are weak, maybe they don't know what they're talking about. Naruto left the training ground leaving behind a pondering Hinata. Good morning Genin. Today is our first official day as Team 8. The morning after the test the Genin returned to training ground 8 and were ready to train. Confidence was radiating off of Naruto so strongly that even Hinata looked confident. Our training will start every day at 8 a.m. You will start with 15 minutes of stretching followed by 3 laps around the forest. Next is 50 push-ups and sit-ups and an hour of chakra control. Finally we will have individual sessions for an hour. For right now I will just be watching just to see your speed, strength, stamina, etc. Now stretch. First they had stretched their arms, followed by their chest, and finally their legs. Once they were done the Genin heard a shout, your laps are next. Jumping up from their stretch Naruto had started out slightly ahead of the others but by the first lap a gap began to form. While Naruto kept running, the others were starting to show fatigue. Naruto completed his second lap nearly a minute before Shino with Hinata a few seconds after. And on the final lap Naruto was able to get a few minutes of rest before Shino arrived roughly 3 minutes later. By the time Hinata had finished hers another minute after Naruto was halfway through his push-ups. By the time she began her push-ups Naruto had finished his and had begun his sit-ups. When Naruto had finished all of his exercises Shino had just begun his sit-ups, and Hinata was halfway through her push-ups. Naruto decided to lay down so that all 3 of them could begin chakra control together. 15 minutes later when Hinata had rested up from the physical exercise. They were all prepared to begin the leaf floating exercise but Kurenai intervened. Actually I'm going to teach you a new chakra control exercise. Tree climbing. Both Naruto and Hinata raised their hands. I already know how. Me too, Naruto echoed. Surprised, Kurenai had to change plans. Oh. Then practice while I teach Shino, then I'll teach you two water walking. Naruto called out, I know that too. Kurenai was shocked. Water walking was supposed to be a Chunin level skill, but Naruto knew it before he became a Genin. An hour wouldn't be enough to teach all of you a separate chakra control lesson, so let's try something different. All three Genin nodded their heads in approval, so Kurenai continued, I'll teach Shino tree climbing while Naruto teaches Hinata water walking. And maybe it will give Hinata some confidence. Come on Hinata, let's go to the river nearby. With Naruto and Hinata, when they reached the river, Naruto began to strip, only leaving on his pants and shoes. Hinata began blushing heavily, but before she fainted, Naruto shouted, No! Do not faint on me. This snapped Hinata out of her spiral. Seeing her more focused, he continued, This is different from tree climbing, so you will fall in at least once. Take off any clothes that are unnecessary so they don't get wet. Slowly unzipping her overcoat, Hinata was embarrassed. She developed a light blush, but this time Naruto had one to match. The mesh armor that she wore under the coat showed that she was much more developed than anyone her age. Let's start on the shallow end. Taking a breath, Naruto continued, the deeper you go the harder it gets. Walking to the edge, Naruto explains, when you tree climb you send a constant amount of chakra to create a suction effect that adheres you to the surface. Seeing Hinata following along, he goes on, the difference between that and water walking is that the chakra you have to send out is fluctuating. Water is always flowing, moving, changing, and you have to change your chakra with it. Stepping onto the water, Naruto holds out his hand, come. Step onto the water. Use your chakra to increase the surface tension of water enough to hold your weight. Slightly blushing, she takes Naruto's hand and focuses chakra to her feet. She puts her left foot on water, feeling the flow of the water so that she could learn to adjust. For her it felt weirdly comfortable. After adjusting, she'd put all her weight on her left foot, and fortunately it held, so she'd put her right foot on the water and let it adjust. After a minute she took a step, then another and another. Soon enough Naruto had let go and let her run around the surface of the river. Standing there off to the side of the river, Naruto watched the girl, with a beautiful smile, enjoying herself, and he could only think one thing, beautiful. And as she ran, almost danced over the water, he continued to look on. But then he shook his head, trying to clear those thoughts from his head. Where did that come from? Hearing a splash, he looked out over the water. He saw Hinata flailing in the center of the river, going downstream, and speeding up. Shoot! He ran down the river after her, the running water speeding him up slightly, but he began to be outpaced by the rushing river. He got more worried as her flailing was dying down. Kai! Releasing his restriction seal, he caught up within 10 seconds, but her head just sank below the water. Damn it! Letting himself sink into the water, he grabbed her arm, wrapped it around his neck, and began to swim towards the river edge. Pulling her out of the water, he laid her on her back, but he couldn't hear her breathing, so he began doing CPR. Finally she spit up the water in her lungs and began to breathe. As she woke up, he laid next to her and breathed laboriously. Thank Kami. What happened? Naruto gave a tired smile. Well, I did say you would fall in at least once. I just didn't expect it to be in the rapids. Hinata adopted an embarrassed and depressed look. I'm sorry. I'm so weak and you useless. Naruto jumps to hug her and whispers in her ear, you are not weak. You are not useless. He holds her by the shoulder and tries to look her in the eyes, but she keeps staring at the floor, tears developing. Taking her chin in his hand, she moves her face to meet his. You are amazing. You learned to water walk. In one try. I couldn't do that. It took me hours. Hinata was too sad to understand the position she was in, and she only asked, really? Yes, really. I am so lucky to be on your team. And I hope that we can learn from each other just as much as we learn from Kurenai-sensei. Hinata finally recovered from her downward spiral, and she finally smiled, and Naruto smiled with her. But when they looked at each other and fully understood that their faces were 3 inches away from each other, one hand on her shoulder, the other holding her chin. They were completely drenched, so her figure showed even more than before, and the water glistened off of Naruto's abs. And for the first time someone actually matched Hinata's blush, as they blushed so hard they looked like glow sticks and passed out. At the end of the hour, Kurenai left behind a shadow clone to teach Shino and went to look for the wayward pair of genin. Near the river she had only found their shirts and jackets but had sensed them unmoving about a mile downstream. Picking up the shirts she ran downstream where she found a shirtless Naruto with a drop of blood trailing down his nose passed out laying next to a passed out Hinata with her mesh armor stuck to her skin and a trail of blood down her nose too. She looked down smiling, he might be what she needs after all. First she woke Naruto then threw him his shirt, get out of here before I wake her up. Oh okay. Making a shadow clone she told Naruto, follow this clone for your individual lesson. Putting on his jacket he followed the clone back upstream. Once they were far enough away the clone asked, so what would you like to work on? Actually I wanna discuss something with you before we start. Okay sure. What is it? I'm trying to become a seal master. And a few months ago when I reached level 4 they introduced the restriction seal. Kurenai raised her hand to indicate a pause. Wait, what level are you at now? I'm almost done with 5 out of 10. But anyway, the restriction seal is one you place on the body to restrict movement by a set amount. So at level 1 it feels like you're wading through water but with your whole body. Then level 2 feels like mud, harder and harder to level 10. Okay, so why are you telling me this? Well, if I applied this seal to our team then it would make any movement a workout, and improve physical training. She was starting to get interested in this seal, but what if we get into a serious fight? Levels are adjustable so you could deactivate it entirely, or raise the level. All it requires is some chakra. You could apply this seal yourself. Yup, how? Well, this seal is applied directly to the body so I would need access to the back and limbs. So the person getting the seal would have to be naked. Kurenai raised an eyebrow. Naruto paused to think for a few seconds but responded, well I think I know a way around that but if it doesn't work, then yes. Okay, when could you apply the seal? Whenever, Naruto shrugged, it takes about 30 minutes per person. Alright, when we get back together we can ask your teammates. But I, personally, will let you place the seal on me. Anything else? Yes, I want you to test our affinities. Kurenai squinted suspiciously, that's a Chunin level skill. It's way too early. Wait, this is for 2 reasons. On this team I'm meant to be the powerhouse, the main offensive unit, but right now the only combat-related jutsu I know are the Shadow Clone and Kawarimi, which while important, aren't much. This basically makes me a one-man army taijutsu specialist. Kurenai nodded her head in understanding so Naruto continued, my massive chakra reserves gives me incredible potential as an ninjutsu specialist so it would be helpful to know what jutsu would be the easiest for me to learn, though eventually I would love to master all 5 chakra natures just like the Sandaime. Plus if I use my clones I could use combo jutsu by myself. Kurenai scratched her chin in thought, that does make sense. I guess I could test your affinity. What's the second reason? Hinata. Kurenai looked at Naruto confused, what does she have to do with this? I don't think she has an earth affinity. What? All Hyugas do. Well, she's not like other Hyugas is she? She is more flexible and passive. And whenever she fights it looks like she has to correct herself almost as if she's fighting herself. Kurenai finished. Exactly. Kurenai looked at Naruto with hope. I really hope you're right because if you are, this solves most of her problems. Naruto grinned back, you and me both. Kurenai's smile softens and she asks, now how can I actually help you? Well, I never got to know the next chakra control exercise. Pulling out a kunai, it begins to hover in her hand. Each chakra exercise corresponds to a rank. Water walking was Chunin. The next one is the Jonin chakra control exercise, kunai balancing. Let's see how fast you can learn it. It had been 2 weeks since their conversation. A week ago Naruto had placed the seals on everyone and today they released them to get accustomed to their new speed, strength, and stamina. Kunai had gone especially hard in their exercises to test their limits. However, during chakra control training Kurenai made a change. Come here today, I want to test something before we do chakra control. Walking towards her Kurenai began to explain, this is litmus paper. It is so sensitive to chakra that if you pump any amount of chakra into it, it reveals your chakra affinity. Similar to the chakra scroll back in the academy. Shino noted, yes, I'm doing this now so I know what jutsu to teach you. Handing them out she explained further, if it burns if your affinity is fire, If it dampens its water, if it turns to dirt it's earth, if it wrinkles it's lightning, and if it's wind it gets cut. She demonstrates by pumping chakra into her own slip making it burn. Holding the paper in his hand, Naruto comments, pretty intuitive. Yeah, so Shino, you can go first. Holding the paper in one hand he channels chakra through his hand and into the paper, and from the corner it begins to burn. Earth style. Is it good? Shino asks. All affinities are good, they just have strengths and weaknesses. You're next, Naruto. Taking the paper he grips it by the corner and channels chakra through it. It crinkled almost into a ball then became very damp. Kurenai was very surprised. Very strong lightning affinity with water is a secondary. Most people aren't born with two affinities, and the ones that are tend to have keke genkai. Your last, Hinata. Nervously she channeled chakra into her own paper. But instead of crumbling to dirt as she expected, the paper became very damp. Naruto grinned. I was right. Her water affinity makes it impossible for her to master the gentle fist. Hinata became nervous. I me Hyuga. Isn't it supposed to crumble? Sometimes affinities aren't passed down by genetics. When you get home I want you to tell your father. You were never going to master the gentle fist because your mind is fighting your body every time you get into stance. Oh. Hinata looked despondent. Naruto tried to help. Hey, none of that. If there isn't another version of the gentle fist, then you'll make your own, and I'll help. Kurenai clapped her hands to regain their attention. We will not be training in your affinities for at least another 2 months. So get back to your chakra control exercise. When individual lessons came around, Kurenai made 2 shadow clones and all 3 groups split into the forest, the original going with Naruto. Kurenai pulled out 2 scrolls and asked, I found one jutsu per affinity, so which would you like to learn first? Naruto pulls out a brush and paper then asks, lightning, but can I see them all so I can copy them into my personal library? Kurenai smirks, whoa hotshot, maybe one at a time. How about this? After you learn one I let you learn another. Naruto grumbles out, fine, hand me the lightning one. Tossing over one scroll sheet put the other in her bag. Raiden. Ride Tenahira, C rank. Seals. Tiger Snake Dragon Ram. Description. User surrounds their hands with lightning chakra. Amount of chakra determines the effect. Contact with the enemy can cause pain at minimum, temporary or permanent paralysis, unconsciousness or death if enough chakra is used. The electricity can also pass through wires and water. Original jutsu. Lightning release. Shock palm. Cool. Time skip. After a healthy but large lunch the teammate began to head towards the Hokage Tower for another mission. Do you think they will give us chores again? Naruto asks his teammates. Shino answers, we are only fresh genin. We are not skilled enough to handle anything more. I know, Naruto sighs. But I think we are. We will get T there eventually, and Naruto-kun. When they finally made it to the office, Kurenai opened the door and the genin followed her through. Good afternoon Hokage-sama, Uruka-san. Ah teammate, welcome back. Naruto waved, hey Gigi. Kurenai smirks and makes a request. My students believe that they are ready for a harder mission. Is that mission currently available? That mission? Already? Yes, I think they're ready. If you say so. The Hokage speaks to the genin as he fishes a scroll out of a drawer. This is a capture mission. The client, the daimyo's wife, has tasked you with finding the target, capturing them, and returning them here. All 3 genin widened their eyes in shock. Such an important mission for genin. Only for genin. Finding the scroll he opens it and checks. The target has dark brown hair, black eyes, and a red ribbon in her hair on the left side. Closing the scroll the Hokage tosses it to Naruto with a smirk, oh. And she's a cat. The silence was deafening. Our mission is to capture the daimyo's cat. Daimyo's wife's cat, yes. While the adults were trying to hold in their laughter, Shino just looked at the picture of the cat. Hinata thought she was cute, but Naruto just sighed, alright, I guess. So Kurenai-sensei, how do we start? Let's start by finding the cat. Naruto shrugged, okay, it can't be that hard. The laughter of all the adults confused the genin. Okay team, let's find the cat. 3 hours later, the squad returned with Tora in Hinata's arms as she petted the cat. The Hokage looked at this scene with his wide eyes. How? You beat the previous record by an hour. Really? That long? Shino found her with his bugs, but after the cat escaped 3 times I just released my seal. Those claws really hurt. The Hokage nodded. Don't I know it? Looking at the old man suspiciously, Naruto continued, anyway, after we pet her for a bit she calmed down. She seemed really stressed, but Hinata really helped in calming her down. The Hokage smiled. Well done teammate in completing your first mission. Darling, a lady ran through the doors and snatched Tora out of Hinata's arms. I missed you. The hug that she gave the cat looked more like a strangle, evident by a flailing Tora. Facing the genin, she thanks them profusely, then leaves with the cat still trying to escape. Now we know why the cat runs away. Shino comments. Kurenai commented, well done genin. You've proven that you are ready for harder missions. Go home and rest. And Hinata, remember to tell your father about your affinity. They all saluted. Hi. Next day, Naruto woke up early that day, so he decided to get to the training ground early. It was 7:30 when he got there, so he decided to read his book on Sealing Level 6. It had been 15 minutes and he was halfway through the part on barrier seals when someone else arrived. Looking up from his book, he saw Hinata walking toward him, but something was off. He was going to keep reading until she got closer, but he couldn't take his eyes away. The closer she got, the more worried he got. First he noticed that she was. Next he saw the tear marks on her cheeks. And finally he noticed that normally pure white eyes, with the slight lavender tint, were red. Putting his book away, he got up and asked, what happened? She thought she had cried all her tears the night before. But when she looked into Naruto's sky blue eyes, she broke once more. She fell to the floor and broke out in tears. Naruto immediately sat down and held her close. Hey, it's okay. Hinata cried into his chest. He. You're all right. I'm here. He began to stroke her hair in an attempt to soothe her. By the time everyone else arrived, Hinata had fallen asleep in Naruto's arms. When Kurenai saw Hinata asleep with tears on her cheeks, she was worried and whispered, what happened? Naruto looked at Kurenai. I don't know, sensei. It's just when she got here, she was crying. I don't think she got much sleep last night. Take her home. She needs sleep. I don't think that's best. Why not? Kurenai crossed her arms. Whatever happened, it was at her home. If I bring her back, it might make it worse. Where would we bring her? I could bring her to my home. No one would bother her there. And I could leave some clones to watch her. I guess that's fine, but no funny business. Of course not. I hate perverts. Making 2 cage bunch, and he gave them commands. Here, take her. One of you will pop once you know why she is crying. The other will stay to make sure she's okay. When he tried to pass her to his clone, she clung to him. Naruto smiled, cute, like a baby. Turning back to his clone, he asks, ready to catch her? Yep. Naruto then replaced himself perfectly with his clone. Now make sure she rests. And don't pop until you know what happened. As the clones ran away, the others began their exercise. They had increased their seals level, so their exercise took much longer than normal. It was an hour to noon before they had completed their chakra control. During their individual lesson, Naruto was excited because he had almost completed his first jutsu. His chakra control, while still average because of his colossal reserves, has largely contributed to how fast he can learn jutsu. He had already got it to work, but he was working on lowering its power. Before, the jutsu always had enough power to kill a person, but today he was able to turn it down enough to only send someone into unconsciousness. He was running through the hand signs as some memories rushed back to him. Kurenai, seeing her student suddenly freeze, asked, what's wrong? With the most serious face she had ever seen on Naruto, he responded, do you know what the Hyuga seal does? Kurenai was confused. Well, from what Hinata told me, it's supposed to destroy the eyes at death so that enemies cannot steal the eyes. But it's also a cursed seal that the main house uses to keep the branch house in line. It directly attacks the brain. Why? Naruto looked her dead in the eye, because I'll have to be able to remove one by the end of the month. Hinata woke up in a bedroom that wasn't hers but was concerningly familiar. As she looked around, it was a large room and extremely organized. Looking at the clock, it said 11:12. Activating her Byakugan, she saw that she was still in Konoha and not alone. Deactivating her Byakugan, she opened the door out of the bedroom and saw 2 Naruto clones. One was reading a book and the other seemed to be rewriting the same seal over and over again at very quick speeds. While one kept reading, the other looked up and smiled. Good morning, I hope you had a nice nap. Hinata nodded. I did. Where are we? This is my apartment. Hinata blushed furiously. How did WEGG get H here? After you fell asleep in my arms, I thought it would be best to let you sleep. Hinata's blush somehow got redder. WWYDD didn't YUTT take me home. Naruto's clone's smile began to fade. You cried yourself to sleep in my arms. Something happened where you live, would you mind telling me? Hinata's increasing blush vanished instantly as she slowly became despondent. My father, he. Her voice hitched as tears began to form in her eyes. WWNIT told him about MIAA affinity he has said. She fell to the ground but Naruto caught her. Hey, it's okay, I'm here. I'm listening. He said someone that seeked NN never F fully M master the J Juken W wasn't W worthy E enough to BBC clan heir. With one final whimper she cried, He's G going to S seal M me at the end of TDM month. Though she couldn't see it bawling into the chest of Naruto's clone, they were explosively angry. They couldn't believe that her clan was taking away her birthright because she wasn't the same as everyone else. The clone holding Hinata turned to the other, go tell boss. Now, as the clone poofed behind him, the clone continued to soothe Hinata as she fell apart in his arms for the second time. Teammate did not take a mission that they saw Naruto had gotten home not long after he received the clone's memories. Seeing Hinata beginning to calm down, he replaced the clone and held Hinata in his arms. Naruto stroked her hair and asked, how can I help you through this? Hinata stuttered, when IG gets sealed. IW will be moved to the B branch H house. How am ISS supposed to unite my clan if any the M main house members C could K kill me if I even try? Prove them wrong. Hinata with tears in her eyes looked to Naruto confused. What do you mean? Naruto pulls her off the ground. Come over here. Naruto guides her to the bookshelf in his room. Sitting her on the bed, he takes a single book off the shelf. Holding his hand in the books, he begins. This is a bingo book. This specific one contains every S-rank shinobi to come out of Konoha. I will give you 100 ryo for every Hyuga you find in this book. Hinata looks confused. Are you sure? Just look, Naruto insisted. As Hinata flipped page by page, she was growing more and more confused and surprised. Why aren't there any Hyuga in here? Naruto smiled. You know I want to be Hokage, so I learned about what it took to be one. I checked the bingo book and found out that every single cage, without exception, was at minimum an S-rank shinobi. This led to finding out how to be one. And I came to the conclusion that every single S-rank shinobi has something special that separates them from everyone else. Something nearly irreplicable. Hinata was scared. But how am I supposed to prove my family wrong? Become an S-rank shinobi. If the Hyuga respect power above all, then show them how powerful the Hyuga can be. Show them that they were wrong to seal you, that Hyugas can do more than just a Juken. But how am I supposed to do that if they can kill me if IG get too strong? Holding Hinata by the shoulders, he reassured her, I can't do anything about them moving you to the branch house. But what I can do is remove that seal. I have over 20 clones learning every single thing they can about Fuinjutsu and Juinjutsu. If you're going to get sealed at the end of the month, then I'm going to learn to remove it by then. Hinata looked petrified. What if my C clan F finds out? Live with me. From the time Hinata had spent with him and following stalking him, she knew that Naruto rarely made any careless decisions. As boisterous he could be, Naruto was also very calculative, so it surprised her when Naruto suggested something so rash. There was a prolonged silence as Hinata began to blush harder than she ever had before. Live W with YYU. When you get sealed, your clan won't care about you anymore. You'll just be another branch member to them. Maybe even less so because of your affinity. Live with me so that you don't have to be a second-class citizen in your own home. While the thought of living with her long-standing crush had pleased her greatly, she was still disheartened by the fact that her clan would no longer care about her once she was branded. RYUS sure. IWW wouldn't want T to be ABB burden. Holding her hands, Naruto speaks very clearly, you will never be a burden to me. You were my first friend. You were precious to me and I would do anything to help you. I want you to be able to wake up with a smile. Instilled with the slightest bit of confidence, Hinata asked, "What do I need to do? Do you think it would be possible for you to get me a copy of the seal?" 1 week later, you could tell Hinata was extremely nervous as she walked towards the Hyuga compound, and though next to her Naruto showed a very calm and confident exterior, he was just as nervous. Arriving at the gates, they both bowed to the guards as Hinata spoke, "Good afternoon Raku-san, Yomite-san. WEW would L like to see my father please." As they opened the gates, Raku answered, "You will find Hiyashi-sama in his study." "Have a nice day Hinata-sama." Though Hinata was led in, they blocked Naruto's path and Yomite spoke, "You are not allowed in here." He is WW with me. Hinata squeaked. Sighing, they both stepped out of the way and Naruto began to follow Hinata. As they walked through the compound, Naruto was in awe of the luxurious houses and beautiful gardens. But all his nervousness came back as they stepped through the doors of the biggest, most luxurious building of them all. "I know that Hyugas are very important, but I didn't know Hinata's dad was this important." As they both walked towards the back, Naruto could tell Hinata was getting more and more nervous. He grabbed her by the hand and squeezed it. Looking back, Hinata saw Naruto give a confident nod, so she took a breath and kept walking. Arriving at a large door, Hinata knocked. They hear a muffled, "Enter." Sliding the door to the right, they both walk in, and while Hiyashi's face remained stoic, he was confused at Naruto's presence. "Who is this?" Naruto bowed. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I am your daughter's teammate. It is nice to meet you Hyuga-sama." "A pleasure. Why are you here?" "I am here as moral support for Hinata's request." Hiyashi turned to his daughter, "Request. WWLIIWW1. YYUSCIII. Hinata couldn't get a word out. Hiyashi was getting tired of Hinata's stutter and was about to speak on it, but he stopped himself. Naruto touches Hinata's shoulder. "Hey, just breathe." Hinata turned to Naruto and he saw how scared she was in her pale lavender eyes. "It's okay. Just breathe and speak clearly." Hiyashi watched the peculiar interaction with interest as Hinata took a breath. "I am requesting to move out of the Hyuga compound after my seal is placed." Though she wasn't able to meet his eyes, it was the first time in years that he heard her speak without a stutter. Nobody was ever able to calm her like that. No Hyuga has ever lived outside of this compound, and it would be foolish of me as clan head to let you because of the possibility of someone stealing your Byakugan. Hinata began getting nervous. "IW would be sealed, isn't he that impossible?" "Not if you are captured. Like when you were 3. Hinata instantly became petrified. Seeing this, Naruto cut in. "Well, assuming that she was kidnapped directly from this compound, it would be much riskier to kidnap someone from the center of the village." Raising an eyebrow, Hiyashi comments, "You speak as if you already know where she would live." After taking a breath in preparation, Naruto speaks, "She would be living with me." Hiyashi managed to keep a stoic face. "Why would I let you do that?" This time Hinata cut in. Well, D because we L live together we C could S split the bills. And D because we are T teammates W we would H have identical S schedules. Hiyashi stared at them both and the silence made it extremely uncomfortable for the both of them. "Hinata, please leave the room." The two genin looked at each other nervously, but Hinata still got up to leave. After Hinata closed the door behind her, Hiyashi spoke, "Although I do not show it, I care for my daughters very much. However, the well-being of the clan is my top priority. Last week when Hinata came to me telling me her affinity, I was forced to forego my responsibility as a father and seal her for the betterment of the clan. When I told her of my decision, I could almost see her heart break." Naruto met Hiyashi's eyes, and although he tried to show confidence, he could feel Hiyashi glare straight through him. "When you two came in today, I saw you do something that I couldn't do, something that I thought no one could do. You gave Hinata confidence. For years me and other Hyugas have done our best to instill some Hyuga pride into her, but she still kept her meek personality. But today, you managed to calm her from that annoying, incessant stutter and momentarily grant her some confidence." Naruto's mask of confidence began to break as Hiyashi kept his stoicism. "Today, I am choosing my daughter. Whatever contact she has had with you seems to give her confidence. So I am leaving her with you in the hopes that she finally gains the confidence she should have always had, and that she can grow into someone that can motivate this clan to change." As a smile was about to spread across his face when Hiyashi activated his Byakugan to give the most menacing glare, But if I ever find out that you have hurt her in any way, I will punish you in ways that you cannot comprehend. Do you understand? Though Naruto kept his happy grin, he was extremely scared of his teammate's father, so he nodded expeditiously. Hiyashi shouted, "Come in, Hinata." She quickly slid open the door and looked at Naruto, who was grinning. As she stepped inside, she looked to her father. "I will allow you to live with Uzumaki-san. You have next week to begin the moving process and 3 days to move out after the sealing." Happily she hugged her father, and though he kept his stoicism, he did hug her back. "May you please both leave? I need to continue my paperwork." Standing up, they both chorused, "Thank you." Stepping out of the room, they smiled and hugged. The blush Hinata had made her glow, but she calmed down enough to not faint and enjoy the hug. Separating, Naruto smiled and asked, "How about I help you start packing up?" Hope you guys enjoy first part of this story. Do like, share and subscribe.